3 years ago, when I was looking in a bookstore, I made my mom get me this book on how to decorate cupcakes. I didn't open the book until this past summer when I realized that decorating cupcakes was really fun. So today, I'm going to show you how to make cupcakes that look like apples. This is where I got the idea. So first we're going to start out with a regular cupcake that I baked this morning, and I put red baking wraps on it to make it look like an apple. And the first thing we have to do is make the frosting red to match the baking cup. So first, it doesn't have to be the first time that you get the red right, because you can always just add more. And you just want to add a little bit and then stir it around. So I'm just kind of whipping it. And like I said, you want to get it as close to the wrapper as possible. So this is probably not enough. So I should add a little bit more. And you want to make sure that you get all the cupcake frosting in, because you don't want there to be white parts on your cupcake, because that will look pretty funny. So that looks good. And then you're going to, because you have to frost this thing twice, so you have to put a kind of thin layer on, except for the edges. Because you're going to have to put a donut on it, you want it to be really thick so the donut will stay on. So the top doesn't have to be frosted like a lot, but then the sides do. So you kind of want to glob it on like this. So then when you have enough frosting on the outside, you're going to set that down for a second and take the donut, and you just want to cut it in half, because you're only going to need half. So you have half your donut, and you're going to put it on your cupcake just on the top like this. So we're going to continue frosting the donuts, because you want a real even but thin layer on them, because the donuts are really fragile and you don't want to break them, because then you would have a falling apart donut and no one wants that. So you're going to kind of work from the edges into the middle, because you still want to incorporate the hole in there, because that's where you're going to put your stem and your leaves. So just keep spreading it around, but you want it like an even layer around, because donuts aren't really hairy. So you just kind of keep spreading until you feel that it looks good enough to start putting the sprinkles on, which is the next part. So I'm not really there yet, because haven't covered it, and then you just kind of want to go around one more time and try and get it really even. That's the goal. And then you're going to dig out your hole again. Alright, so then you're going to set that down very carefully, because again, the donut is very fragile. And you're going to take, that's frosting on here. And then you're going to take your sprinkles, and you're going to hold it, again, very carefully, and try and get the sprinkles like on top of it. And they should stick, but you gotta kind of tilt it a little bit. So this might take a few minutes, because you don't want to have any visible parts. And it's okay if there's sprinkles on the table, because you can just clean them up later, because they're edible. And so you just want to keep shaking it and covering it. So, oops, got a little part back here. So when your donut's all sprinkled, you're going to set it down again, once more very carefully. And then you're going to move the donuts out of the way, because you don't need those anymore. But you're still going to need the cutting board, but you don't need that either. And so I have just a simple roller that I'm going to use for the Tootsie Rolls. And And so for the stems, you have like a normal brown Tootsie Roll. Oh, and frosting on it. And you kind of want it to be a little bit soft because you want to work with it a little bit. So you're just going to unwrap that, kind of get it a little bit warm. And then you can take a knife and you want to cut it diagonal across so that you still have like a big part because the stems aren't just rectangular. Kind of like that. So you got that, and you just kind of want to mold it into a stem-like figure. And you don't want it to be too skinny because otherwise it could flop over and that wouldn't be good either. So when you have a good stem, you're just going to stick it right in the hole that you had to make, right there. And then you're going to take a green Tootsie Roll for the leaf. And this really needs to be workable because you're going to have to roll it and you're going to have to cut it and all that stuff. So you unravel it. And then you just kind of want to flatten it out a little bit. And you don't want it to be too flat because then it will be too floppy, but you don't want it to be too thick because then it won't go anywhere and you can't really cut it. So once it's like this thick, you're going to want to take your knife again, and everyone does different shaped leaves, but I'm just going to do a simple little this shape, and then you're just going to mold it around, because apple leaves are kind of circular, so this, and then you're going to take your knife and you're going to make the little veins in your leaf, and then you're going to turn it a little bit, stick it right by your stem. And so that is how to make a cupcake into an apple. I hope you learned a little bit about cupcake decorating, an activity that is both fun and delicious.